Newsmax hinted that the U.S. government could invest $1 trillion in XRP in order to settle its obligations in the future. Is this even possible? I'll tell you all you need to know in this film. Additionally, this clip contained certain statements that aren't entirely accurate. They miscalculated market capitalization in the cryptocurrency space. I'll discuss everything else after the video. I merely want to state that this news source is American for the time being. There is currently discussion of the U.S. government purchasing a large amount of XRP for future debt repayment. This is the most significant event in history. Newsmax is read by Donald Trump. Has this video been shown to him? That is a question we will have to ask. Let's go on, though. I'll provide you all the information you require. How will everything operate? Guys, let's get started. Please like and leave a message if you enjoy what you're seeing or hearing. Come on. During that period, $348 would have purchased 1.7% of all Bitcoin that was in use. That sum would wipe out our whole balance sheet today. Yes, exactly. They also did the same to Social Security. Because individuals are purchasing cryptocurrency, it is, as they say, worth what people believe it to be. A bag that costs $50 to create but sells for $5,000 is comparable. I'm not sure in theory. Could the government spend $1 trillion, or almost a fifth of our annual tax revenue, on a brand new cryptocurrency like XRP, which is presently trading at about $2.50? That coin would be much more valuable as a result. In conclusion, congressional approval would be required if you wanted to invest $1 trillion. Without receiving 2/3 of the votes in Congress, such an action would not even be feasible. Let's continue. In use. There are currently $144 billion worth of XRP available for purchase. Its value would increase eightfold as a result. $1 trillion invested in XRP would cause the market capitalization value to rise through the roof, long after 8 o'clock. No, he has no idea what market capitalization parameters are, or how they operate in the cryptocurrency space. But that's all right. I just wanted to inquire further about that. Returning $8 trillion to the government in a single day. Would you like to be cruel? They are able to sell it, cause the market to plummet, then repurchase it and begin anew before Saturday. Pay the bill. Stated differently, the government cannot regulate cryptocurrency in the same way that it does banks and the phony Federal Reserve that makes money without any effort. Well-known Ronald Reagan quotation. The government functions rather simply. If it moves, it is regulated. If it stops moving, it is subsidized. And if you are unable to do either, there you have it. He had never heard of blockchain. Reagan did not know about the fourth option. Acquire the ability to manage what you choose to manage. The government can only exert any type of control over cryptocurrency in one way. They must participate in it. That you possess it is fantastic. It will be quite valuable. We can always earn money to purchase cryptocurrency. Crypto will survive because of this. It's the method to ensure that losing another zip of teeth won't matter. More importantly, though, seamless zipper's worth might be sufficient to create money, pay off the nation's debt, devalue the dollar, and blow up cryptocurrency. All right, there are some obvious flaws in this person's reasoning. In an attempt to pay off its debt, the government manipulates the markets by purchasing, selling, and then buying again. That kind of thing is never a good idea. I believe that purchasing XRP with large sums of money would be a wise strategy for future debt repayment, if the U.S. government does choose to do so. That is a reasonable question, in my opinion, and we must obtain a reliable response. Since it would be quite difficult to figure out, I decided not to use $1 trillion. I spent 100 red billion. You could double it by 10 like I'm doing here if you'd like. I said that. Suppose the U.S. government invested 100 billion in XRP, and what would it be like? What would it cost? How much? For a purchase of $100 billion, they would probably need to do this in groups of, say, $1 billion, $10 billion, or $5 billion each. There probably wouldn't be enough XRP available on sites for you to buy and sell, and the price would obviously skyrocket as a result. Now let me tell you some facts. The spot price, liquidity, and market structure would all be significantly impacted if the U.S. government made a $100 billion investment in XRP. This would be particularly true if the funds were used in 10 billion portions on open platforms. This is most likely how it would proceed. Impact on spot prices right away. The order books for XRP on major exchanges are currently dangerously thin. For instance, less than 4 million XRP are available according to Binance's order book. It is feasible. There aren't many strong trades. The fact that there are only 4 million seats left for Binance is astounding. It claims to be valued roughly $10 million, however, there might be some savings accounts here. It would cost roughly $10 million to purchase this entire finance order book at 260. According to recent studies, the price of a token might rise from $260 to $15 with just one $10 million buy order. If you were to multiply this by 1 million, the price would skyrocket. A rapid surge of $100 billion in buy orders would most likely swallow the easily accessible XRP on its main spot exchanges, causing the price to spike many times over and even into the double or even triple-digit range per XRP, according to model scenarios. Approximately 60 billion XRP are in circulation at the moment. A bit more is there. Additionally, the market has a very little quantity of cash on hand, possibly less than a few $billion. Jay Claver stated that there were less than 2 billion. According to numerous other experts and scholars, it may currently be much lower than 1 billion. Platforms would be depleted almost immediately if 100 billion were purchased on the market in 10 billion pieces. Bots and market makers would not be able to fulfill ask requests fast enough, which would worsen price loss with each batch. If the price will enter price discovery mode, which means it will be extremely volatile, once the spot supply is nearly entirely purchased and those in seats selling take over. People will bid against one another to obtain the remaining tokens during gap-ups. You must realize that if the US government announced that it would purchase this XRP, I believe they would first do so covertly, because merely announcing it would make people worldwide fearful of missing out. Everyone would want to enter before the government did, after all. This applies to both banks and ordinary citizens. I think they would do it in front of friends and family because of this. In addition, I believe that the US government might negotiate with Ripple for the 5 to 10 billion XRP that is now held in trust. Each month, Ripple unlocks roughly 1 billion XRP. They have relocked 700 million coins, or 70% of that total, in the past few months. Therefore, I do believe that XRP is useful. The trust, in my opinion, is the wisest course of action for the US government in this transaction. Furthermore, if Ripple were to strike an agreement of this nature, the Federal Reserve would likely create a version of RippleNet and say, "Hey, we'll make this deal for you. But you have to use our version of RippleNet. It's the version of the US government. It might be known as USDNet or something like. All domestic and international payments would then be made using XRP and RLSD. That's essentially what we're discussing here." Alright, so we did discuss severe supply shock. Let's now discuss how this functions in practice for each payment. You must be aware of this since otherwise XRP would no longer be available for purchase. At this point, a market capitalization ratio could skyrocket by 50, 100, or even several hundred times. What happens if exchanges still have 50 million or 1 million XRP? That figure might be very high. The news reporter didn't understand this. According to him, the US government invested 1 trillion in XRP, which could increase its market value